Welcome back to Say Mojo Homestead. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about owning dairy goats. The first thing I kind of want to touch on is the schedule and the routine and kind of what to expect if you are going to decide to get some dairy goats. We've had several people ask us or tell us they've been thinking about it. So I just thought I would kind of share the ins and outs as far as routine and just what to be prepared for mentally if you decide to get a dairy animal. The other thing I want to talk about is their fun little goat personalities. Some good stuff is coming for you. So first, I'm going to show you the footage I shot while I was milking this morning. You can find a lot of videos, or I could find at least when we were really thinking about dairy goats, I could find a lot of information about like how to milk and all that, but I didn't really find a lot about like people really talking about like the life involved in owning dairy goats as far as scheduling. So I thought that I would kind of share that with you because you have to make sure you're mentally prepared for what the daily life looks like, I think, before you go in and buy them. And we've had several people ask us or comment and say they've been thinking about getting goats. I thought I would share a little bit of that information with you. First of all, I do want to say we got our goats from Goat Daddy's farm in Elgin, South Carolina, and Jason taught me everything to do, and I just do it his way because he's a grade A goat dairy, and I figure if he's DHEC approved, then whatever he does is sanitary, and that's the way I want to do it for my family. That doesn't mean you have to do it my way or his way or whatever, but this is the way I do it because I know that we are getting healthy raw milk. I've never seen people do this on YouTube, but we actually use iodine, gentle iodine, that we get at Tractor Supply. It's just this big thing. We put it in a teat dip thing, and we actually dip the teats before we milk. I just use baby wipes to wipe it off. But basically, I've washed the udder. I've washed around the udder. We have gone ahead and we have razored them, shaved them, so they are clean underneath, but they lay on the ground. So we wash the udder really well, and then we do teat dip, and we put it on there for a minute to kill any bacteria that might be in there, around there, and then we do our strip. We just strip whatever might be in the teat. Now most of this, like I said, you can find videos on, but I wanted to just tell you that I didn't ever see anyone doing a video. That's what he does. So one thing I really wanted to talk about was the schedule. So goats, to get the most milk possible, you want to milk with every 12 hours. So like if you milk at 6 o'clock in the morning, you want to milk at 6 o'clock at night. If you milk at 7 o'clock in the morning, you want to milk at 7 o'clock at night. Obviously, you don't have to, but in order to get the most milk possible, that's what you want to do. You have to keep that in mind. So let's say you are at a friend's house and you want to go to dinner. Well, you could maybe skip one night or one milking, but it is going to reduce your milk supply a little bit, but it'll only be for a couple of days. Well, there was one time last year when we were at a party and we skipped the milking that night. The next couple days it took us we didn't get quite as much milk as we typically would, but then after a couple days they were right back up to where they were before. So that's just something to anticipate. You don't want to do that often, because if you do that often, it will reduce what you get. Now that being said, we milk twice a day, but last year I started having some problems with my hands cramping. We actually ended up switching to once a day milking, which there are some farms that they will milk twice a day up until the baby goats are 2 months old, and then they'll switch to once a day milkings because they have plenty of dairy goats, and it affects their milk supply because it does reduce the milk that they are producing, but they have so many dairy goats that it doesn't really matter to them. So
that is an option if you don't need a lot of milk, or if you're just using the milk just for your family and you're not wanting to make your yogurt and cheese and all of those things. If you have more of a limited need for the milk, then you can milk twice a day for 2 months, and then you can switch to once a day milking. Just know that will reduce what you're bringing in the house by about half. Now at 2 weeks, their full milk supply should be well in. This is Elsa. She's our best milker on the homestead. She provides the most milk for us at this point. This was pre-Majesty last year. I'm really excited to see what Majesty brings in. But she was our best producer. So what she's eating is some grain that I actually get from Jason. I just like to keep everything simple, and I do it his way. I am going to teat dip again. After you milk, their teats are open and there's chance for bacteria to get in when they go into the pen, if they go lay down or whatever. So you want to teat dip, and I just leave that. That way when they go out there, it just dries on the teats and it can clean any bacteria that might get in there. The grain he has is awesome grain. It's special. It's specially made for his farm. And so we just buy the grain from him, and he is awesome. He lets us come and just grab however many bags we want. So in order to have a really high milk supply, or the highest possible milk supply for the goats, we let them eat as much grain as they want while they're on the stand. So she has free access to about 2 cups of grain is what I put in there, and I'm not gonna make her get off. Now, there are mornings when we're running late or we have stuff to do, and I do have to kind of rush them through the process, but right now we don't have anywhere to be today really, and so I'm just gonna let her sit here and eat as much as she can, and we do that twice a day.
So first we have Elsa. She has the red collar on. She's who you saw me milking. She is always first in the milk house. That is how she was. She was the most dominant in milk when she came to the dairy, because Emily Rose wasn't in milk, and she has always been first. Majesty has not been able to take that place from her. So a little bit about Elsa and her personality. She is probably my easiest milker. She just gets on the stand, she eats her grain, and she lets you do your thing. You can milk her if it takes a little longer. She was the best goat for me to learn on, because she just wants to eat, and it doesn't matter to her if it takes me a little longer to milk her out. So she's a great milk girl and has a great personality. She also loves lots of love. This blonde one over here with the green collar, this is Emily Rose, and Esther's trying to get love in too. She is by far the most dominant Nigerian dwarf. She is the one that's always on high alert. She was a little steppy when I first started milking her, and what I learned from spending time with her is that, first of all, she wants me to be fast. You have to milk her out fairly quickly. Also, she does not like to have any voice in the milk room other than me. She doesn't like to have other people present. When she was delivering, I helped her deliver her babies. We bonded. She developed trust with me. I was listening to a gardener's podcast, and I had to turn it off. She didn't like the other sounds, the other voices. It made her uneasy. She doesn't like it if a dog barks too loud and too much. She's just really, really protective and is cautious. So learning her personality, I was able to figure out what the environment needed to be like to keep her stress level down. So this is our smallest girl. This is Esther. She's the youngest on our farm, and the youngest Nigerian dwarf on our farm. And she is super, super sweet. And one thing I will say about her in regards to milking, it was really beneficial. Is she chewing my coat? Yes. Hey, stop eating my coat. Stop chewing on my coat. So one thing that was very beneficial was knowing kind of where she came from as far as her milking history. She came from a dairy where she would have a goat on each side as she was being milked. So she had someone on each side to kind of lean against, and she felt very protected. She does not like anything she can't see or hear. I think because she is the smallest, she gets very, very scared and nervous very easily. So milking her, I have to actually sit on the stand, and she likes to feel me, and she actually will lean against me. She likes to feel me next to her. It makes her feel safe. I think it's what she was used to at the dairy, and it's the only way I can keep her from being real steppy or scared. And so for me, I think the ultimate goal as a small homesteader was to really gain their trust and learn these things about them, so that the milking experience could be low stress for me and low stress for them. I have the unique opportunity to get to know them because it is a small herd, to gain their trust and figure out the best milking setup for each one, so that it can be an enjoyable experience for both me and them when they're on the milk stand. So this is Majesty. She's the newest to our farm. She's a mini Nubian, and I have to say, I don't know. All this is just what I've observed. All these tips, all these things about these goats, it's just what I've learned from working with them. Majesty is a case that is probably fairly unique. So when she was giving birth, she had been laboring so hard, she was exhausted. So we took her babies, and then I grabbed a milk bucket because she could not stand up. She was so tired, she couldn't stand up. I immediately started milking her out so we would have that for the babies. And she actually leaned her head over and rested her head on my hand and fell asleep while I was milking her out. So she genuinely sees me as her baby. So I milk her. She does not like to have her head locked in the stanchion. I tried that the first couple times and it was terrible. So she actually prefers to be backwards on our stand, not locked in. And she likes to, I just milk her out, and she'll look back and make sure it's still me. If she's getting a little steppy, I just put my hand at her face, and she smells me and sees that it's me, and she's fine. I put grain in a separate container at the end of the stand. She stands on the stand and eats her grain. If she runs out, I get her more, and she just literally lets me take my time and milk her out, which is great because as a mini Nubian, her udder is a little tighter. It gets very, very full. It takes me a long time to milk her out. So it's either, it's the best scenario that she sees me the way she does, and that I have all the time I need to really get all that milk out. And she's very, very good. The only problem is she doesn't want to leave me. And so getting her out of the milk house proves to be a little difficult sometimes. But I've found that if I leave the milk house, she'll come out with me. So that's all I have for you. The personalities thing was definitely just what I found helped me as I transitioned into milking goats. I don't know that it's like scientific, but I do think it helps keep their stress levels down, and it makes it enjoyable for everyone involved. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. If you milk goats, I'd love to hear of your experiences. Other than that, I think we're done. Thanks for hanging out with us this week. Have a great week and be blessed.